Going live in 30 seconds.
Can they see me already?
Oh, yeah, they can hear you too.
Thanks for the warning.
Yeah. I'll whisper, though. That way they won't know we're talking. Oh, shoot. Here we go.
Yeah, whisper in front of the microphone.
Welcome to Lisa's Changing Perceptions. Lisa is the creator of Changing Perceptions. Through life experience, she has discovered that we all suffer internal wounds that guide us. We live in a society that puts a label and expectation on everything and everyone. So many are in constant battle with themselves, never winning the war or ever feeling good enough. Lisa's Changing Perceptions is a show that offers tools and guidance that will assist you in discovering you and unlocking the chains of pain that bind you. You can reach Lisa at www.lisaschangingperceptions.com or give her a call at 262-573-7055. Lisa's Changing Perceptions is brought to you through the financial support of Natural Therapy Wellness Center. Check them out at www.mchenrymassage.com, 815-385-8190. Today, mental, physical balance. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I am happy.
For all of those who heard the pre-show conversation, Kent says we're going live shortly or in a minute or whatever he said. So I keep talking thinking I have time. And then Kent says, well, they can see and hear you already.
Oh,
Luckily, I was not having our typical green room conversation.
That's right. That's right.
How that occurred.
That's right. Good morning, Ted. How are you?
Good morning, everybody.
Gary, hopefully you had a sensational Sunday.
Yeah, and hopefully you are not covered in snow like we are.
I don't think Singapore
I
is.
think he's safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, the struggle is real in the Midwest. And I'm not really complaining about it because I would still rather have this than Florida summer. So I'll deal with a little bit of snow and stuff.
You know, if I'm out, like I got up at the crack of dawn, I watched the sun come up this morning as I was shoveling. I wanted to snow blow, but I ran out of gas. But so I think God wanted me to shovel.
God wanted you to go to my house and do it too.
Oh, well, you should have said
something.
Brush
off my car.
Yeah, you should have said something.
You should have spoke louder.
Yeah, right. I wasn't listening aloud.
He wanted you to brush off my car.
I had the physical balance. I didn't have the mental balance.
I was not in tune.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Lisa with Lisa's Changing Perceptions. I'm a self-empowerment coach. I'm a diploma hypnotherapist and a certified NLP practitioner, as well as a few other certifications that fit into there. I am here each week hoping to help you guys find your little piece of the pie that helps you maintain and get better. And usually people have asked me, how do you decide what your show's on? I really base it on kind of how did my week go and what was the most common questions. And then I use that as my clue to people need to hear this because people are asking a lot this week. So that's why we're doing physical mental balance, because I feel like in medicine, in medical society and mental health society, I don't know that they always work together the way that they could and should to give a full overall. And I'm also a firm believer in, you have doctors, you have people like me, you have, whatever, but you're still responsible for you.
Yeah.
You're still responsible for your own knowledge, your own research. And by not knowing, understanding, learning those things and having a true understanding of how things work, not that you have to be at a medical degree level, but you need to educate yourself enough on what's going on with you to ask good questions.
Yeah.
My doctor's very used to me. I've been seeing her for like 20 years. So she knows that when I come in with an issue, I'm going to be like, okay, but I looked up this and then I read this, and I am not just a Googler. I tend to go to true medical sites, WebMD, what's the clinic up in
Mayo.
Yes, Mayo Clinic. And then I go to chat sites if the topic has chat sites and stuff for people who struggle with it. And I take like the true medical versus the people really living with it.
Yeah.
And I kind of find my middle ground of understanding and what resonates.
Oh, so you research.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
interesting.
do.
I get my information like most of Americans through a meme. Good morning, Jen.
Your memes on Facebook, because if Facebook said it, it must be real.
That's right.
So anyway, this topic's come up a lot this week, so I decided to talk about it today. First off, I'm going to announce, because I'm very excited, our first download is complete.
Yeah.
And we're hoping to do one, or with any grace, if we do it well, the first time too today. So in the next couple of weeks, those downloads will be available. People have asked what the downloads are, and are they just like a guided meditation that you can get anywhere? And no, they're not. These are techniques that I use in the office with clients to help to uncover the underneath. So yes, there's guided meditations, and I may do a couple, because they're very beneficial. I even do better meditating if somebody else is guiding me through what to do. But these are a little more deep, I guess, than that. And they go to specific areas of the unconscious that's kind of sabotaging us, or where there's a question or reconnecting and understanding. So they're a little more intense, I guess, than that. But they're not meant to be uncomfortable. They're actually meant to allow you to bring up underlying issues, known and unknown. And that's what people don't understand too, is that many of the underlying issues are actually unknown to you consciously what's doing it. And it allows you to bring those up comfortably. By doing them at home, you're able to do it in your own environment where you're safe and comfortable. And this was a way, and I've been looking for a way over the last year or so to do it that was more affordable to everybody. Versus only a limited number of people. We've all been there, where we really want to do something, but it's just not in the budget kind of thing. So to find it that way. So I'm very happy to announce that one of them is complete. And it must be good, because when I was done taping it, I'm like, Kat, how did that go? He goes, well, I nodded off a couple times and I had to catch myself.
I did, as I was producing it and flattening some things out, doing the audio work, I did as well. I was like, come on, you gotta just pay attention to it. You're working here. You're not in a session.
I'm assuming it's effective.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
We're gonna.
I'm very excited. I'm very, very excited. It'll help a lot of people.
And anybody who might be afraid of it or has question of it, I do not believe in doing anything that makes someone relive trauma.
Mm-hmm.
To me, if you lived it the first time, kudos.
Yeah.
So we may see things, we may feel things, but I help you to disconnect from the emotional effect of that and just see it, to let it go. So there's no reason to have fear of, oh my gosh, I don't want to do that because I don't ever want to feel that again.
Yeah.
So this is actually teaching you how to process that without feeling it again. So that's going to be the benefits of it, and I'm very excited, and I'm very grateful to Ken for offering the opportunity to.
Yeah, hopefully a week or two out, perhaps we'll have them at www.216thenet in the store, as well as out there on Lisa's Changing Perception.
No, we're probably not.
Not there?
Just going to do them on 216.
Just doing?
Because Lisa's not technology literate, and Lisa doesn't want to.
Fair enough.
Lisa trusts Ken.
So I know Jen's out there listening. So Jen, be ready. She's my website wizard out there. So
okay.
She and I will probably have to get together and figure out that
how it all works.
Yeah.
And we're gonna put them out in sets of 3, but that doesn't mean you have to buy 3.
Right.
What we're thinking about doing is I'm thinking they're gonna be $9.99 a piece, because that's an affordable price. And then you can get all 3 at one time, and that'll be a discounted price to get all 3.
Yeah, you can bundle.
Right, you can bundle.
It can be like Flow.
Right.
You can bundle.
And we're going to put them out in sets of 3. So hopefully the next week or two, with the grace of anything that helps us do this, those will be available. And the first 3 will be available. And I'm just so excited.
Yeah.
So share it with your friends. And then another quick announcement, and then I'll stop you up and we'll get to the topic, is don't forget on February 6th, I am going to have the woman who constructed Love Another Way, who deals with the parents of addicted adult children. And it teaches the parents and helps the parents and works with the parents to overcome their own codependencies and their own struggles and their own guilts and what have you, to get their own lives back again, which in turn, and I've said for years and had this conversation with counselors for years, is that people have asked me, how do I save my children? Well, by saving yourself, by healing yourself, by becoming happy, by looking at your own issues, because we all have them. And there's a weird society thing that, well, no, I have to be this way because I'm a parent. No,
Not so much.
You're as a parent, your greatest gift, my personal belief is your greatest gift to your child is the example of purpose and the example of possibility, as well as the example of vulnerability and humility.
Yeah.
And those are your gifts, and who more will your child trust? So I'm very, very, very excited for her to come on. She'll be on the 6th. And then the following week on the, what would that be, the 13th,
Mm-hmm.
I have Dr. K, retired now, but 40 plus year doctor of psychology, who has dealt in the criminal justice system,
Awesome.
jails and what have you, as well as in interpersonal one-on-ones in the office. And I am very proud to say that over the years, he has become my friend, and he is going to come on and chat a little bit about his experiences. And he's a really great guy, super sweet guy, and been through a lot of things, obviously, in all those years, and talked to a lot of different people. And he's going to come on, and he's actually really excited about it. We had gone out to dinner a few weeks ago, and I'm like, Kay, I call him Dr. K. His last name's actually like Casimir. But I call him, Kay, why don't you just come on the show? Maybe I will. Like,
awesome.
Okay. And then I just got a text from him this week, like, how about this date? So we're going to start having some guests, not just people who share their own experiences. And if you have a story that you have conquered and you are proud of and you feel that would help other people, please message me or message Ken.
I'd love to have you on.
Email Ken. I love to hear, not just, I'll have doctors and people that are coming on, and I want other people to share their knowledge as well. But I also want people to share their stories.
Yeah.
Because in truth, in the big picture, knowing we're not alone in all of this is a huge part of recovery in any aspect. And I don't just mean an addiction. I mean life recovery.
Yeah.
Life kicks your butt. And it can be really difficult. So sometimes hearing somebody else's story and knowing you're not alone is just as much of a plus. So if you have a story that you feel you found a new way to do something, or you found something that really worked for you and you don't know what you would have done without it, or whatever it is, please feel free to email either myself at Lisa'sChangingPerceptions@gmail.com or Kent at 216thenet, and let us know your story. And I can't do it every single week, but I'm gonna be randomly choosing those stories to come up
Yeah,
here.
cool.
I have a few people who I'm already lining up. I'm just waiting for their schedule to say that they can come. Living in the Midwest, sometimes it's difficult. And if you don't live here in the Midwest, to come here live in person, Kent is perfectly capable of getting you one remotely, to where you can, remote in like Julie does when she does it. So please feel free to do that. All right, now off to the topic. What's happened this week? Many people have come because they're struggling with something and ask me questions, which that's what I do. So that's fine, whether it be friends or clients or what have you in the office. And I'm noticing a correlation, and I guess I don't even know if I put it together on the show before. I mean, kind of have with body syndromes, but body syndromes are kind of how your body physically responds to your emotional well-being, but it also can go the other direction. So one of the big things that I talked about this week is what we do for ourselves to help our body to conquer something. Since we know our mind and our body communicate, it's not just our brain telling our body what to do, but it's our body giving our brain what it needs to do. So for example, I work with teenagers now. For whatever reason, Spirit decided teenagers were my thing. So now I have several of them that I'm working with.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I love teenagers, and it's fine. And I'm just going to put this out there. Part of the reason I haven't worked with teens in my office has nothing to do with me disliking teenagers. I actually love teenagers. And I truly actually love the naughty teenagers, because I know there's a root to that, and you just got to get at their level and play their game and realize they can't win. And you can really get through to them. But what do teenagers do? When they come to the office and I talk to them, what do teenagers do? Teenagers drink Monster and Mountain Dew, and teenagers eat chips and candy. And teenagers eat all these carbs, which that's what teenagers do. But if you have a teenager or an adult is the same way. I'm using teenagers as an example because teenagers' diet is usually worse than an adult. Although I have met adults that have a teenager's diet, so it depends. When you have anxiety, or when you have a struggle with the anxiety in the physical, anxiety is a physical response. Anxiety is fight and flight and hyperdrive.
Yeah.
So when you have this response, it's a physical response in the body. And I've talked about this before, where we're not afraid of what happened. We already survived that. We're not afraid of an emotion. I can list all the emotions and nobody's going to react to them. But when we put those two things together and then we realize what an emotion makes us feel, it's the physical sensation that occurs in the body, whether it be heartache, whether it be crawling out of your skin, whether it be fidget, whatever your body's responding like. It's the physical response in the body. So although, yes, we need to work with what's triggering this, what is the trauma, what is the trigger? We also need to give our body what it needs to overcome that and create the physical mental balance. So when teenagers come in with anxiety, one of the first things I do in the very first session is I say, okay, tell me what you're eating. Tell me what you're doing.
Yeah.
Sometimes with anxiety, they stop eating because it causes a nausea and they don't want to vomit. They don't want to feel like they're going to vomit. So they'll stop eating or they comfort eat.
Right.
Voila. This is what happens when you comfort eat too long.
Amen.
Right.
I resemble that remark.
So, and when we comfort eat, what do we usually go for? The carbs.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Because
Something
it's the rush.
sweet.
It's what those chemicals do to our brain to cause that rush.
Yeah.
Well, what happens is that your body, when your glucose goes up to a certain level, your body, your brain and your body working together say, holy crap, stranger danger, glucose too high. I'm going to create insulin and I'm going to come and bring that number down. You got to bring it down to normal within a safe range for this body, right? Well, your pancreas creating that insulin does not know whether you ate a pie,
right,
or whether you ate a big protein-filled turkey dinner. Okay, it doesn't
interesting.
know.
Yeah.
So it sends enough insulin to bring the number down to where it needs to go.
Yeah.
Well, with carbs burn like that.
Like that.
So what happens is that when it brings that, it burns real fast and it plummets.
Right.
To where you get hypoglycemia or you get low blood sugar.
Right.
Low blood sugar then will trigger your fight or flight response because then it's again, stranger danger, something's wrong. And fight or flight is triggered not just when there's a presence of danger, it's anything that creates a danger to your life and well-being will trigger fight or flight.
Okay.
So your blood sugar being too low will trigger fight or flight. Think about whenever you've been in a situation with fight or flight. What does it feel like? It feels like a rush of adrenaline.
Right.
It feels like anxiety.
Right.
So it drops it down, and then you start to get in fight or flight, which then you go, oh, I feel anxious. I'm feeling the anxiety coming on. It's really your fight or flight mechanism getting triggered. And then as soon as you focus on the fact that you feel anxiety and I'm going to have a panic attack, I know I'm going to have a panic attack. I'm sure I'm going to have a panic attack. It's going to be a horrible panic attack. What are we doing? This is what we're going to do.
Right.
And we're going to spin it.
Yeah.
So the first office visit with teenagers and adults, depending on the situation, as I say, I want you to make little baggies, maybe trail mix, sliced cheeses, sliced quality turkey, whatever. Several little sandwich baggies so that you can take them with you when you leave or so that they're readily available. Because here's the reality, whether you like it or not, we're lazy. And if we have to do it, we're probably not gonna in that moment. Just like, am I gonna cook a meal or am I gonna go get fast food? I don't feel like cooking and doing the dishes, so I'm gonna get fast. Like Mary talks about, have pre-made meals for those moments, So have these baggies filled with proteins. And I have them eat them every 2 to 3 hours. Now, we're not talking about a meal. We're talking about a handful of almonds.
Yeah.
Or, what it's doing is it's keeping your blood sugar regulated. And when our blood sugar remains regulated, number one, we don't really feel hungry, so we don't get that urge.
Yeah.
And we're not going to drop down into fight or flight. Now, working with teenagers, what's the one thing a teenager likes to do? Tell you you are full of crap and you are wrong.
Yeah.
Basically.
Roll their eyes.
I have every office, every first visit, I tell them that's fine, and I'll make you a deal. Try what I'm asking you to do for 2 to 3 weeks, and do it with honor. Do it that you're really trying it. And at the end of that period, if it doesn't help you, you get to tell me I'm full of crap, and I can't be mad about it nor argue it with you.
Yeah.
Well, what do they look forward to? I'm gonna tell her.
I'm not prove her wrong.
The funny part is the majority of them will actually do it, trying to genuinely prove me wrong. And then what happens? I actually feel better. I noticed I'm having less anxiety attacks.
Right.
And they forget about the fact that they're going to prove me wrong, and they're just grateful that they feel better. So it's not that necessarily that just food was the problem, but here's the problem. I can give you tools to work with anxiety all I want to, so that you mentally and consciously work with those tools. But if your body is responding in a way and you're not giving your body what it needs to come to balance with that, to where they're working together,
Right.
it's pointless. So if I give you a bunch of tools for anxiety and you're doing these tools and then you're doing them while you're eating a bag of chips and having a Mountain Dew, well, guess what? You're going to feel that anxiety and you're going to think the tools aren't working.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily that the tools aren't working. It's that your body's responding to something else you're doing. So by giving your body self-care, those proteins and things that it needs to balance, that will allow you to feel the combination together, because it is interconnected. Your fight or flight mechanism is actually it's a muscle response in your brain. Okay, so it's like a muscle. So the best example I have for this is if I give Kent a pen right now and I say curl the pen, he's going to be like, whatever.
Right.
This is no big deal.
Yeah,
And
I can do this all day.
Curl it 24/7 for a week. And guess what happens? Your arm gets tired. That pen all of a sudden weighs 9,000 pounds.
Right.
Your arm gets weak and tired. And so your arm begins to not function the way it did. And your arm begins to become weak and it remains in that state. So with the blood sugar, when it's going up and plummeting down and hitting fight or flight and going up and plummeting down, because we go into fight or flight, we think it's anxiety, then we come for eat the carbs and we go back up and then the insulin comes.
Right.
So we're doing this, up and down, up and down, up and down roller coaster.
Right.
Well, what happens is that fight or flight mechanism will become tired. Let's just think of it as becoming tired. And when it becomes tired, it'll always remain on at least slightly, which is when you'll hear people say, even when everything's good, I still have a little bit of that feeling. Right, because that muscle's weakened. It's tired, so it's just remaining in state.
Right.
So just like with the example with the pen and you curling it, if I say, okay, well, your muscle's really tired, Ken, the best thing to do for your muscle is to put the pen down and rest your arm and allow it to rest. Don't use it. And your muscle will come back, right? It'll rest,
right.
It'll rejuvenate. So will your fight or flight. And by keeping these proteins in them and keeping those blood sugars regulated and pulling it out of that fight or flight state, that muscle gets a chance to rest.
Right.
And then it will begin to function properly. Here's the big mistake. Well, I'm feeling better now. So you go back to what? What worked?
What worked?
Before for what worked was the comfort and the carbs, but it caused a problem. So that's something that when that happens, you have to learn that that's something that I need, and it becomes your daily thing. Just like the downloads that we're doing, and just like the breathing that I teach in the office, and I might even do a download that's just different breathing techniques.
Oh, that would be cool.
That breathing, that should become part of your self-care, where it becomes your habit. I know if I keep proteins in my body, and again, we're not talking meals, we're talking, a small amount of food. We're talking about a small handful of almonds or something.
Yeah.
I keep that blood sugar regulated, and then a few times a day, I take 5 minutes to do my breathing and pull myself in and get myself in balance. Even when I'm feeling fine, we wait for the problem.
Yeah, why is that?
Because we're lazy.
Okay.
I mean, really.
Yeah.
Why fix it if it ain't broke?
Right.
The problem is it was broke and you repaired it. So now if you keep using it the way you used to, it's going to go back to what it was.
Right.
So it's learning that new self-care and learning that maintenance. And that's what I do with teenagers with anxiety, but also I'm finding with adults, and I've had a few questions this week, both male and female had this conversation. I'll do women first because it's more commonly accepted, is that I hear people say, well, she's in menopause, so she's crazy.
Ha.
Well, I get it.
Yeah.
I'm a menopausal woman, so I get it. But what people don't realize is that
You were crazy
hormones,
before then?
Huh?
You were crazy before then?
I was, but this just accentuates it, causes new crazies.
Right.
For example, I was at somebody's house and they kept going, "Are you okay? Are you cold?" And I'm like, "No, I'm in menopause. The odds I'm ever getting cold are not very big."
Right.
On occasion, even in the last couple of weeks, I've opened my window and put the fan in front of it to create a heat blocker in my room because I'm warm. But what's happening is that when we're in menopause, what's happening is our hormones are changing and they're becoming kind of off balance because we're getting older and we no longer need all the hormones that we needed to reproduce and to, do these things. And while that's happening, face it, your body's changing, your metabolism's changing, but people don't realize that your hormones actually feed your brain too.
Right.
Your hormones are part of what tells your brain to set off these chemicals that make you calm. So all these changes are happening and you're starting to feel mentally, emotionally unstable. Well, everything about your body is changing from what it was and what you've ever known.
Huh.
So I encourage people, go get your hormones checked. And here's my biggest thing, my biggest argument, because I've actually argued with doctors about this. While you're young, you should have a baseline hormone done.
Okay.
Because when doctors do blood work, and it has the range.
Yeah.
Most of those ranges are computer generated because of research for people from 18 to 99.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a pretty big freaking life.
Yeah. That is.
So if you don't know what your base is, how will you know where the change came from?
Yeah.
So they'll say, well, you're within normal range. Well, how do you know you're within normal range for you?
Because I fall into that category.
But you
Mary Shep, good morning. She says, many people can't tell the difference between hunger and thirst, so they keep eating when they are actually dehydrated as well.
Yes, and I've learned, and I don't know if Barry's ever heard this before, a severe chocolate craving, that I have to have chocolate, is actually dehydration.
Oh, okay.
And then if you drink a bunch of water, the chocolate craving won't go away. Why that's connected, I don't know.
Jen says,
"Wow, thing.
Wow, good stuff." Yeah, and the fascinating thing is, we're never taught this. In school, in health class, you just even in home ec or whatever. As you're going through this, they don't connect.
Right.
The physical aspect is go throw red balls at each other. We'll call it dodgeball. Good luck.
Right.
And then the mental, we're not even going to touch that.
Right. Yeah, because that's a series of shows.
Yeah. But the interesting thing is, as you say it, as the words are coming out of your mouth, I sit here and go, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, right? Everything's changing. So
yeah.
She's not crazy. She's feeling physically different than she's ever felt before. Her body's changing.
Yeah.
Physically, to where she's never looked that way before. So what's happening? And her brain's not getting the same hormone chemistry that it did. So that's causing some mental emotional struggle because it feels different and she's seeing things different and thinking different. And then so what happens? People are like, why do they go through that when they go through menopause? Well, every subconscious insecurity is going to come up. Your body's changing. You know what I mean? Then the mortality of getting older is coming in.
Well, yeah, and let's hold that thought right there. What I hear is her a lot.
No, we're going to go into men's sex.
Yeah, I was going to say because dudes change too, right?
Yeah, well, that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
So I said we'll do women first because women are more socially acceptable that they have menopause. And the reality is men have menopause, and we're going to talk about that too. So no, I did women first because I knew that wouldn't throw people off. They could run away too fast. So she's not crazy. She's feeling these things, and her body's changing, and her body that represented who she was now doesn't look the same, and things are moving from where they used to be.
Right.
And all these, and then plus that's creating some triggers of insecurities and some triggers of past thought, and then that's creating some fears, and then that's creating the reality that she is becoming older, which is then touching on the mortality of your life. And all these things are happening at one time, and it's overwhelming. So yes, we need to deal with the mental, emotional part of change and accepting change and new phases and things like that. But if your body is physically feeling an imbalance and physically causing these things to stir up and feel uncomfortable, we need to balance that with it.
Right.
Because I can talk to you all you want to about life changing and accepting and dealing with what you're seeing, whatever it is. But if you're physically uncomfortable, feeling unhealthy, feeling fatigued, feeling depressed, none of that's going to work because you know what? You get to the point where you're like, well, screw it. I'm just meant to be miserable.
Right.
And there's a common theme in our society that says, I'm getting older, therefore it's just normal that I'm in physical pain.
Huh.
I'm getting older, so it's just normal that I'm depressed and don't want to go places anymore. No, it's not.
Interesting.
It doesn't have to be. It's normal for our society because we've accepted it as normal. So then I did have a male that I had this conversation with who, if you do research on male menopause and low testosterone.
Okay. Low T as they call it.
Yes. And what happens is that people associate testosterone with two things: being a muscly manly man and sex.
Right.
That's it. That's what testosterone has to do with.
Oh,
No.
oh.
But testosterone has to do with cognitive function. Testosterone has to do with emotional balance. Testosterone has to do with your body's physical metabolism, your muscle mass. It has to do with so many things.
Your diet, I mean,
Right,
everywhere, yeah.
Right, because everything changes. Men get older too. And because our society has this stigma on, oh, well, testosterone. Oh, no, not me. Bullshit. Because if you start doing the research is showing that the average is 50% of men over 40 begin to develop low testosterone.
Is that right?
And with low testosterone, it's not only hair loss, it's when the body physical changes in the body is the belly and the chest. Like that's where the weight tends to change and shift around in the body. It is depression. It is a loss of muscle mass. It is cognitive function and memory. So yes, it is related to sex and impulse and those things, absolutely. But it's also related to all of these other things. So having those things checked. So again, I can see a male in the office who's struggling with depression or anxiety or regret or life review, whatever it is. Men tend to come in for certain types of things. And it's interesting that it's usually very different than women. And I tend to see that it's because of the society stigmas. They can come in for all those things and they can face and realize all those things. But if their body is still doing this,
right,
they can't create the whole picture. You know what I mean? They can't do it. The two things need to work together. So your physical and your mental well-being have to come together. And sometimes, and I'm finding more often than not, in people my age, okay, because people my age didn't talk to me. So
right,
I'm going to be 54. So in this age range, and I'm as open about talking and joking about menopause as I am about everything else I talk about. So people kind of put their guard down a little bit around.
That does not surprise me.
They'll chat about it. And I'm finding that there is this phenomenon. So I started to research it. And I am surprised how many specialty clinics specialize in this, and I didn't even know it because I hadn't gone into it.
Right.
And then I called my doctor because I talked about it on the air. I have what's called PCOS. It's polycystic ovarian syndrome. So basically I have these big cysts on my ovaries and my hormones are screwed up. So I have this little shot, Ken. I can't wait for the Ken feedback. I have a male's low normal testosterone. Well, there was a time that I had a male's average. And then I had to work on it to change it. And my estrogen, my female hormones are actually low.
Okay.
So that's what happened with the polycystic ovarian syndrome. Well, I did some self-care and changed it. I went on medication for like 2 months for it. And I called my doctor and I said, what the hell's wrong with me? I feel like I had the flu every freaking day.
Yeah.
Like it just, not horrible, but this nausea and just, achy. She said, oh yeah, that's a side effect of the medicine. I said, what? I'd rather deal with the hormone imbalance than feel like this the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So I went into what do you eat? What do you do? Self-care, mind-body connection, meditation, Reiki. That's how I kind of explored into some of these things. And I did it religiously every day for about 1.5 years. And then I went into the doctor and I said, I want to recheck my blood levels.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, you're not on the medicine. I said, I agree.
So Jen says this actually relates to emphatic development in young people as well. If they are in a constant state of flight or fight, they always are hyper aware of the negative. So adult empaths can instantly spot the people in pain and pick up on the negative faster than the positive.
Exactly,
does my explanation make any sense?
Excuse me. It's kind of like when we talked about the wound on the arm.
Yeah.
If it's always raw and always open, you're always going to be on guard for anybody to go near it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they go near it, it's going to cause more pain.
Right.
So when you're in chronic fight or flight, your whole body resonates that.
Yeah.
So anybody who mentally, emotionally, or physically triggers that to become worse, what are you going to do? You're going to strike.
Yeah.
You're going to strike because you're trying to guard yourself or protect yourself because you're in this constant state of discomfort. So absolutely. And that's why I really do work with it with teenagers. Even when I was in the ISS, I used to get in trouble for it. I'd be like, okay, well, tell me when the fight started.
Yeah.
Well, they did blah, blah, blah. Tell me right before that. Tell me what you were feeling. Go back to that, and realizing that it actually wasn't the person that they got in the fight with, because I work the ISS, so most of the time, the kids are down there because they did something.
That is not a small boat.
Right, not considered naughty. And this morning, such and such happened, and my mom made me mad, and then this happened. It's like, oh, so you came to school in an aroused state, and so something that normally wouldn't trigger you triggered you, and this is how you reacted.
Yeah, Jen says I have PCOS as well.
It bites, but then let me finish. I went into my doctor, and my doctor knows I'm weird, and she's used to it over all these years. She's also used to me bringing in stacks of paperwork going, prove me wrong. And I said, I want to do the blood work anyway.
Yeah.
And she said, fine, because she knew I'd argue with her. And blood work came back, and she said, Lisa, this is a true story, but again, my doctor knows me really well, so not all doctors are going to do this. She said, I have a piece of paper in a frame over there that says that whatever you did doesn't work. But your blood work's almost normal. And whatever you're doing, just do it. And I'll deny I said that because this doesn't make sense to me. I said, okay, cool. She said, but your testosterone is still a male's low normal. It's still a little bit high. I said, have you ever met the men in my life? I better have some balls. I better have some. And so I don't, and it is part of the reason that I agree. It's part of the reason I am kind of backboned and all right, I'm not going to instigate, but if you want to have a go, let's have a go,
Bring it on.
And I've always teased and said that it was because I have a male low testosterone, so I have balls as big as they do, and it's always just been a joke. And I tease about it. But the point is that I went in and did the mind-body thing. I talked to my body. I asked it when it needed, and I changed those things. And without medication, they did change.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying people don't need medication, so don't go stopping your meds and saying Lisa said so. That's not at all. I'm saying to be aware of what works for you and make decisions of what works for you. I decided I didn't like the side effect of the medication, so I was going to research and look for something outside the box that was different. And in that situation, for me, it worked.
Yeah.
But I had to take control of my own life and my own body because I didn't want to do what they were asking me to do. Okay.
Of course, you're listening to 216 This is Lisa's Changing Perceptions. You can check Lisa out at www.lisaschangingperceptions.com or shoot her an email at lisaschangingperceptions@gmail.com. Thank you. And I'll get it right. And of course,
way to go, producer.
That's right. And of course, Lisa's Changing Perceptions is brought to you through the financial support of our good friends over at Natural Therapy Wellness Center. Check them out at www.mchenrymassage.com, 815-385-8190. A great place for massage therapy, reflexology, Thai yoga massage, acupuncture. They're all licensed massage therapists over there. So another way to stay out of fight or flight is to get a good massage.
Well, you know what? And that's true. And we'll bring that up as a matter of fact. And I do recommend massage, and here's why: is that our muscles actually store memory cells as well. So because what happens when there's something that makes us upset, makes us angry, hurts our feelings, is a shock factor, a car accident, whatever, what do we instantly do when we don't even think about it? We go
tense up.
And that stores into the body and into the muscle memory.
But even if you're watching a movie and you hear the music,
it's coming. But those things store in your muscle memory. So a good massage and a good massage therapist knows this, because I knew somebody who had never had a massage before and they were 50. And I was like, oh, you gotta try, just try. And I didn't think about it.
Right.
And they had lived a very difficult life. I shouldn't say a very challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And so they agreed, and they went for this deep tissue massage. So a day and a half later, I was like, what is wrong with you? Because it was like the ugly girl.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Really? I don't know. And this lasted for about 24 hours.
Yeah.
So I happened to have an appointment at the place, and I went in and they asked how the person was doing. And I said, okay, except for they were really crying. I don't know why. Oh, they had emotional release. Oh, duh. Like, it didn't dawn on me. But all those years of all those tensions and traumas, as those muscles released and let go, the toxins, which will make you a little nauseous, and the memories came out. So they flowed through, and tears release them. And I've done this before. I've shared it on my Facebook page. If you go Google, they research tears under a microscope. The different reasons for the tears, whether it be onion tears, grief tears, happy tears, whatever it was, they all crystallized differently. And it's because it's an energy leaving the body. So it's actually something different. We see it as a tear, but within that tear, what's releasing from your body is different. And you can go, for all you Googlers, go Google it. And it's another thing I explain to teenagers, because technically when a teenager, almost 9 times out of 10, when a teenager, they're there with their parents, because I required the parents to come the first session to understand what's going on. Because if everybody's not on board and you don't have a good support system, that's another problem. So then the parents leave and I spend time with the kid, and as soon as the door closes, the kids will start to cry. It's just the release of, maybe this is my moment that I get to fix this kind of thing. It's just the release. And they'll be embarrassed. Oh my God, I'm going to cry. I'm like, crying is so healthy. I don't mean if you're depressed and you're ugly crying nonstop and can't pull yourself out. That's not what I mean. But our forcing ourselves not to express these emotions, we're actually keeping embedded all of these energies. And it's true, because there is emotional release with massage. And so therefore massage is healthy. So my point is that go and do those things for you is self-care, because you're allowing your body to let go of toxins, and you're allowing your body to let go of emotions that are stored, and allowing your muscles to move more freely. So it's very, very healthy, and I truly do recommend it. If you're afraid of emotional release to the point that I'm not going to go get a massage because I don't want emotional release, that would tell me that you probably need it more than everybody. Because there's something in you that knows, I don't want to feel that what I know I'm going to feel, which means that you know you have those things stored.
Okay.
So it's a good, healthy thing. And then I always get the repetitive, how often should I do it? I don't know, however often you feel you should. Everybody's different.
Right.
Everybody's different. Somebody who hadn't had one for 50 years could probably do it fairly frequently for a little while, because there's probably a lot of stuff in there, right?
Yeah.
But somebody, how often do I go? Every 2 or 3 months, probably. Should I go more? Probably, but I don't. I mean, my schedule just doesn't really allow it, because their hours are not fitting to mine. But
right.
I also know, you know what? I know I went 4 weeks ago, but I'm feeling it. I better go again.
Right.
Know your body, understand your body. And part of one of the downloads actually we're going to do is that mind-body connection of scanning your body. What do I feel right now? What does my body feel like? And not waiting until you're uncomfortable to do that, because it's the same concept as the hormone testing. If I wait until I'm uncomfortable to see what my body feels, then I have nothing to compare it to. So if when I'm in a good state and when I'm in a balanced state, I do the self-care to breathe, to take care, to see what I feel like, to do a body scan. Where are my tensions? Where are these muscles? Where am I feeling? Then when something changes, you can recognize it faster, because you know what that state was, and now it's changed and you can look at it, versus waiting until there's a problem. So my argument with the hormone testing was I actually talked somebody into getting their testosterone checked. And the doctor came back and said, it's within normal range. I said, okay, normal range for men 18 to 99. Pretty big span here.
Big span.
But what's their normal range when they were prime? Well, I don't know. We never checked. Right.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
what's your baseline? Right.
The same way as how do I feel? What does my body feel like? Where are my tensions at when I'm feeling in balance versus when it changes? So I said, you don't have a baseline. So since you don't have a baseline, that may be within normal range. But have you noticed that they're losing their hair? Have you noticed that they've gained weight in their chest and their belly? Have you heard them say their memory is struggling? Have you heard them say they're struggling with depression and anger?
I can't remember if I
can't remember if I said. So you have to do that. So then you have to put up your own. That's when you have to take yourself into consideration, and you have to understand what you're doing and what you're feeling like to challenge those things. I'm not saying go in and freak out about your doctor. Okay?
Right.
But say, you know what? Okay, doc, you have the medical degree, but since we don't know what I was in my prime and I have all these other symptoms, is it possible there's something going on?
Could be.
And then start pushing that to find it. So again, and it's not just hormones. I use that as an example because this week that has really been what the topic has come in with, including for myself. So it's about taking self-responsibility, but not waiting until you're struggling to do it.
Right.
To understand, okay, well, you know what, I'm starting to feel uncomfortable. And then take that. And part of one of the therapies that we do as far as hypnosis is that there are times when we'll go back and in hypnosis, we'll relive something and we'll put ourselves back in something. But it's a time when you felt really, really good.
Right.
We recall a time when we felt really physically and mentally good. You know, regardless of if it was 6 months ago or 6 years ago or 60
Sure.
years ago, we go back to that state. And in hypnosis, we'll bring up that state of being and we'll bring up that time to where you're actually, your body and your
Mhm.
mind is responding to that time. Because what can happen is when we let something go too long,
Yeah.
that becomes our new normal. And our mind thinks that that's past and we no longer
Yeah.
remember how to feel that. So by bringing up that good sensation, that good feeling, and having the recall physically in the moment, because you'll physically feel that sensation again, you remember what that's like. And when we remember what something feels like that feels good, and we experience something that feels good,
Yeah.
what are we more apt to do? Go search for it.
Go search for it.
Why don't I feel that way anymore? And sometimes that's just the hope and encouragement somebody needs, is to remember, wait a minute, it is possible. Because when somebody's been struggling with anxiety or depression or whatever it is for a long period of time, there comes a point when we unconsciously accept that as who we are now.
Yeah.
And so therefore we just accept that that's the way it is. And we forget that there was a time when we weren't.
Yeah.
So we have to recall and bring that up. But our body physically responds to that, which is why you feel this is physical sensation. And when you feel that physical sensation, your body's creating all those endorphins and chemicals and all those things that you needed to feel that sensation and going, hey, wait a minute, we do have these.
Yeah.
That's right.
Ted asks, so how can you tell when your body needs carbs or protein?
When you feel like shit, you figure out what your body needs.
Yeah. I usually
Chronic
say
anxiety is more than likely too much carbs, too much sugar,
Yeah.
and you're in low blood sugar.
Yeah.
When you need protein, generally and Mary would be a better, maybe I should have Mary. Mary, you want to come on the show and talk about this? Because she probably is actually more educated in
Yeah.
nutrition
Of
than
course.
I am.
we're talking about Mary Shep, who does
Yeah.
my Living Low Sodium and runs www.mylowsolifestyle.com. And you can catch her show on Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. Central, right here, 21.6.
Is she listening? Is she in comments?
Well, yeah, she said some comments. We'll see if she said.
Yeah, Mary, you're more educated in nutrition and what your body does and how foods and things
Yeah.
affect us than I am. I welcome you to get a hold of me and come chat about it. It's something people want to know.
And Jen Krejci says, just a few minutes of mentally listing what you have gratitude for works wonders as well. She says, I have a gratitude that I can walk. I have gratitude I have a phone to entertain me, money to buy food for today, etc., etc., etc.
Absolutely. And remembering that we do have those positive things, and then I always offset that with. And then when your mind goes to what you don't have, take a moment to accept the fact that you feel that deprived
Mhm.
and ask yourself, and why don't I, and what is stopping me from it?
Yeah.
Because here, and this is what people say, but that's not grateful. I am grateful that I have the aptitude to understand that I have these feelings for a reason and that I can change them.
So the interesting here's the interesting thing, and this is what I absolutely love about 21.6 The Net, is the ability to the shows on this station actually help me. And what I say is, as you say that,
These are called psychology sessions.
well, there's a lot to that, because in the past I would listen to what you have to say in your area of expertise and go, oh, she is as fruity as the cake I get at Christmas, right? Even my brother, who's a doctor of psychology, I'm like, God, would you just, but the interesting thing lately is that if something happens from listening to your show and what you do, and everybody else's show for that matter, is understanding I do that now. I stop and I'm present in the moment and go, wait a minute, why am I feeling this way? Right. And I shared that a little bit on Bridging Civil Tension, as I shared with them. I'm like, why do I now notice that there are no white people on any commercials. Why does that bother me? Why do I care? I have to
Right,
stop.
where does it come from?
I have
Exactly.
to stop and start digging a little bit. And the amazing thing is, even watching my youngest daughter play basketball, and okay, why am I getting tense? She's out there having a blast,
Right. Why is this bothering me?
Yeah.
Why does she have to do XYZ?
Right. So why am I feeling fight or flight? Oh, let me, have a handful of peanuts. Make sure I get the tea in there, or so, what's going on, and it's worked wonders. I mean, it really allows me to not get out over my skis, so to speak, right?
And it is just pulling yourself back to the moment, and because it is real, and part of it is that our emotions, whether they be deemed by society negative or positive, are all real.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So by stepping back and going, you know what? I'm pissed off. I'm really angry.
Yeah.
And just accepting that and going, I'm really angry. Oh. Rather than going, I can't be angry, I have to fake happy, and I have to do this. And then what are we doing? We're shoving it in there. Shoving it in. That's more for those muscles to release later on. So, and I'm not saying, I will always say, in lieu of harming another, ever. Never acceptable. But by just accepting that we have this balance of emotions, we're no longer spending so much time hiding it.
Right.
And because to hide it is exhausting.
Oh.
To hide it is absolutely exhausting. I know people who try to hide what their internal home environment is like, and then out in the world they appear, like the cleavers. And isn't that exhausting?
Jen, absolutely love Jen Krejci, one of my closest friends. On New Year's Eve, she witnessed the eruption of that. I had Pete passed away. We moved, very, very stressful, 60 days for me. And, it was at a point at about 2 a.m. where it just was like, guess what? I can't stay tamped down anymore.
Yeah.
And God love him.
Mr. Wonderful, who's been entertaining you all, is gone.
Yeah. and God love, Jen and Mike and Vic for allowing me, a safe place to throw up on them, literally, not vomit, but just my emotions erupted like a volcano. And when it was done, I go, I guess I didn't process all that stuff as well as I thought.
You were in survival mode.
Yeah.
And that can happen too. There's two ways to look at it. You were in survival mode. You knew you had to get these things taken care of, and so you had to just keep conquering what it is. And eventually that gets to be too much, and that's what I say, the lid blowing off the pot.
Oh, it did.
You know what I mean? There's only so much you can take, and then it has to explode, and then you felt better.
Well, then I felt horrible.
Well,
because
but once you let it out, you realize how much you had held in. So then you're not holding it. It's better. But it's exhausting. So what if, in hindsight, you look back and you say, I would have just allowed myself a few hours or a day during that process here and there to just melt down and just
literally melt.
It would have been so much easier. But sometimes we're in survival mode and we can't do that. So that's a balancing act.
See that?
But to know, okay, once this is over with, I need to allow a self-care day. Or a self-care weekend if it's done real bad, and allow yourself, I call it my pity party weekend. I do it a few times a year. I have what I call pity party weekend, and the people who know me well know what it is. And I will literally go, I am overwhelmed. I'm not thinking straight. I have no motivation. I feel no hope.
Yeah.
That's when I know I need pity party weekend, that I've just stayed in survival mode too long. And I'll have pity party weekend where I literally barely talk on the phone, if I even do at all. I binge watch TV. I eat what I want to. I ugly cry if I feel like it. I talk out loud to whoever. I yell at my husband. Whatever comes to mind, I go. And usually by the end of the weekend, I'm feeling better, and I kind of sick of laying around here now. And I'm gonna get my big girl panties on now and go be a big girl again. But you know what? I feel so much better, and you know what happens? I get 10 times as much done. I'm more focused. I'm more motivated. I start moving forward. And because I just allow myself to go, God, you've taken on a lot of stuff lately, and you really haven't taken time for yourself. Maybe you need to. And I am not ashamed to cry. I hate doing it on the air sometimes. So I always my makeup will be all spread all over. But I don't tend to ugly cry very often, but it's because I will let myself cry when I feel teary. If I feel that emotion coming up, I'll let the tears.
Yeah.
I don't think, and what I found in the beginning is that it made people uncomfortable. And what I found as people knew me better, spent more time with me better, is that I find that other people then feel the same allowance.
Yeah.
Like now I have people in my life that maybe wouldn't have cried before or would have, allowing themselves to speak and let tears flow because there's no judgment. But being aware of yourself is, and it's funny because you brought up the topic with how you were feeling lately, because my mom and I just had this conversation because I kept seeing on Facebook memes.
That's right.
So it must be true.
Must be true.
About judgment. Don't judge. You should never judge. Reality check. It's human freaking nature to judge.
Yeah.
To respond to your judgment is probably not very good or rational.
Oh.
But to have judgment is human nature. So by making people believe, I never judge. I'm judging you for being a liar right now because you are. The judgment is the thought that comes to mind. The reaction to that is who you are.
Yeah.
And why do we have judgment? Because we have life experiences that made us think a certain way at a certain time.
Yeah.
So when a judgment comes up, exactly what you said. Oh, this is weird. Why am I thinking this way?
Mm-hmm.
You know, why am I doing this? It's not the thought that comes to mind that is negative. It's, you can't help it. Did you say, God, I hope while I'm sitting here, I get these really bad thoughts about people? I don't think anybody really does that. They flow up. They flow up because they're a memory. They're a response. There's something that you learned at some point, and your mind and your body are showing it to you. It's a recall. They're not always going to be positive. Has your life always been positive? No, it hasn't.
No.
So they're not always going to be positive. But to not react to them and to instead go, oh, I just judged that. Why did I judge that? Where did that come from? What made me think that?
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of get in there and accept that you had the judgment.
Yeah.
Allows the judgment to be there and then allows it to let it go. And you kind of learn things about yourself. But everybody judges. And anybody who says, I never judge other people, I'm judging in the moment for life. It's the thought that comes up, the reaction to it is who you are. Okay, period. Do you live your judgment, or did the judgment flow up and you evaluated it and then you realize where it came from and you accept it for what it is? Then you can change it.
Then you can change it.
Right.
Yeah.
But you can't change it if you're going to deny it. And by telling people who are struggling that you never, you know, it's kind of like the people in the love and light world that say, I never live in ego. I have conquered my ego.
Right.
Just the fact that you think you're that superior is your ego.
Boy, I see it's working well.
Rock on, you're my idol. These are normal things that come up, and allow yourself to do it. I had a gentleman say to me that he feels guilty because he loves his wife very much, but when he sees a beautiful woman, he has thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay, well, that's bad. I'm married. That's human nature.
Yeah.
God created us to procreate, to have chemistry. That's human nature. No, it's terrible that I have those thoughts if I see somebody. Not every person, because then we might have a problem.
Yeah,
but, you know what I mean? Like you see somebody that...
Next week, lessons from the Pope.
Right. And I said, so do you go act on those thoughts? Do you go hit on that woman? Do you go sleep with that woman? Do you go, well, no, I would never. That is your character.
Correct.
The thought is human nature. The thought comes up. You didn't ask to
Right.
have that thought. The way you respond to that is who your character is.
Oh, yeah.
That's your integrity. And then, oh, I'm not doing anything wrong. Well, if you're out hunting them, we got a problem.
Yeah.
But if you're driving down the road, you know, if I'm driving down the road and some man that I find incredibly attractive is there and I go, ooh, I'm not cheating.
How you doing?
That's a natural instinct. That's
Right.
what we're created to do. That's why we have attraction. That's why those things happen. That's procreation. That's all those things. Now, if you go act upon that, that's a different level of character. But by acknowledging that that's real and that that's normal, that shows your character.
Yeah.
And letting it go and not acting on it. So we're out of time.
Well, real quick, Jen says, internally think, what have I learned from this judgment or situation or thought that I would not have realized learned if it never happened?
Absolutely.
Then let it go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's just the acceptance of it. And isn't it interesting how great it feels to just accept who we are and what we think? Because when we do that, we're not pushing it down, because when we have to push it down and we have to battle it down, it's exhausting and it creates shame.
Yeah.
We're human.
That's it. Of course, that music is gonna say, "Hey, it's
Lisa,
time
shut
for
up."
us." Yeah. Thanks for tuning in to 21.6 and that. This has been Lisa's Changing Perceptions. Of course, we could go all day with this just because it's great stuff. But we've got Fellowship of Faith right now on our heels. So tune in and then come back for Metaphysical Meanderings
See
with
you next
Lana
week,
Duncan
everybody.
Hartgraves.